here's the thesis that we're going to come back to again and again in this video series. Artistic value must be expressed through a system of capital. I didn't make that rule, but I think that centuries of art history show us that it's true. I'm going to take my time unpacking that statement across this whole series, but let's talk about what it means for Yves Klein's zones of immaterial pictorial sensibility. The relationship between art and materiality was just one of the ideas that Klein was exploring. And as I said before, it's an idea that I think he pushed forward incrementally with some of the techniques that he used. But the other thing that he was exploring was the question of, what does it mean to own an idea? You see, the zones of immaterial pictorial sensibility were for sale. And that meant that someone could own that feeling of the color blue. But to own this most immaterial of artworks, you had to pay in the most material of currencies, pure gold. That's right. You could only buy these invisible artworks for gold. And people did. And so when you handed over your 20 grams of gold for this zone, you did get something physical in return. You got this, a receipt, a token. That acknowledges your legal ownership of the zone. That's it. That's the only physical thing you get. But wait, it doesn't stop there. Once again, Klein takes it further. Just like he took this notion of art as idea and took that further by saying that, the object was actually in conflict with art as an idea, Klein did something to say that owning an idea was actually in conflict with experiencing the idea. Because Klein recognizes, like Mark Cuban did in that tweet, that while physicality or materiality is not strongly linked to a sense of connection with the thing, ownership is really strongly linked to a sense of connection with a thing. That's true whether the thing in question is an esoteric art idea, a sensation, or a rookie card. And Klein wants to push past that. So Klein says, if you want a receipt to say that you now own this idea, you have to pay for it in gold. But, he says, you won't really own what he calls the true immaterial value of the artwork. It won't become a part of you the way an artwork that you own is supposed to become a part of you. To have that, you have to participate in this ritual. He says, meet me at the River Seine. Bring the little paper token that I gave you in exchange for that 20 grams of gold. And burn that token. And I'll throw half the gold in the river. And now, and only now, will you truly understand what it means to own that artwork. There are 3 well-documented instances of collectors performing this ritual with Klein. Burning the paper receipt that now would be worth a lot of money if they were to sell it to a museum. Watching Klein throw only half, his gold into the river. And sharing this connection with the artwork, which again is supposed to contain the immaterial essence of the color blue. One collector who actually did this described his experience, writing that he had, quote, no other experience in art equal to the depth of feeling. It evoked in me a shock of self-recognition and an explosion of awareness in time and space. It's interesting to me that burning is one of the functions that is by default included in NFT token contracts. And I know that there are some collectors out there who have made big money purchases and then publicly burned the token. I recognize that doing this is typically what we call a flex, a display of that collector's wealth and the breadth of their collection. But if you are someone who has done this, if you've burned a token connected to an artwork that you've bought, please reach out to me because I need to know. How did it feel? Do you feel like you too now own the artwork absolutely and intrinsically the way Klein thought you would? Please get in touch. Okay, so that's a lot about Yves Klein and the zones. And hopefully you've seen how some of these really esoteric conversations that were happening in art around 1960 are really, really relevant right now. And we've seen how Klein's zones were sort of the original tokenized artwork. But just as Klein would use his new technologies, namely his paint and his mounting techniques, to improve on Malevich's ideas of abstraction, so were there artists who would use the new tools of blockchain to improve on Klein's ideas of immateriality. Even as blockchain and smart contracts were in their infancy, some artists were already thinking about applying these technologies to conceptual art. And I was one of them. After the break, I'll show some early blockchain art from 2017 that I think is worth looking at as we try to find some interesting signals in the noise of the crowded NFT art scene.